This is a how-to video on account balance reconciliation using the free Managing My Money Excel spreadsheet tool. For those who do not have access to this tool, you can click the link above, which links to a separate video showing how you can download and access the tool. For those who already have access, let's proceed with the demo. So we're going to go ahead and start by clicking on the Accounts tab at the bottom. Now, normally you'll have your accounts already registered on the screen, but for the purpose of this demo, I wanted to start to help people out who don't have their accounts registered yet. So you'll look here and you'll see that there are two sections for your accounts: manual entry accounts and tiller accounts. So the tiller, for those people who are importing their transactions through Tiller Money, those accounts will automatically be populated for you. You won't need to worry about that. However, one thing that you want to look at is on the top here, it talks about starting balances. Okay, we want to be able to show the starting balances. And over here, even if your Tiller Money accounts are already populated, you want to look and see if you have a valid starting balance. And if you don't, we'll need to set that. So before we set the starting balances, let's go ahead and register our accounts. So for this demo, I'm using accounts that were manually entered. So I already have, if I click on the current balance drop-down list, you can see that it'll show every month where there are transaction data already imported or added manually to the track sheet. So I have a full year of data from January of 2021 to December of 2021. What I want to do is I need to make sure that I register all the accounts. So I go to the track sheet, and if you look on the top here, if you scroll to the left here, you will see that there is a column H that's called account. And you click the drop down arrow, it'll show you all the accounts that have data in it. So I have something called checking account. These names are pretty generic, right? Credit card, savings. So in your case, you might have specific account names for your institution, but in this demo, I just put standard items. All the accounts that are listed here, you need to register on the Accounts tab. So we'll go ahead and do that. We'll go back to the Accounts tab, and I'll put in an institution. We'll call this Fort Knox for this example. And we'll put in checking account was the first one. And you'll see when I do that, it'll populate the balance. If you put a typo here or put in some, let's say I do a typo, you won't actually see a balance, and that'll tell you have the name wrong. But once you've typed it in correctly, you'll see the current balance. So I had 3 accounts. One was checking account, the name was called savings. And by the way, there's a type. You can optionally set this one to remind you that this is a checking, because that might not be inherent in the name. That's checking, this is savings. And I had a last one, and this was from a different institution, and it was called credit card. Very descriptive name there. And guess what? This one is a credit card. So I know I have the names correctly because I see all the current balances. But the other thing that I can see here is that, and first let me just say, I can see the current balances, and now that I have them registered, I can see the balance at the end of any month. So if I pick June, for example, I can see that in my checking account, this is the balance I had at the end of June. And for my savings, this is the balance I had at the end of June. I can pick any month, and it'll show me the balance I had at the end of that month, the last day of that month. Clicking current balance will show me the amount that I have as of today in that account. However, I also see that the starting balances are set to 0. So these values will not be correct. If I compare against my financial institution, they will not match, guaranteed not to match, because I don't have a starting balance. So you can go up to here and say set edit starting balances, and you'll see another screen that comes up that allows you to put in what the initial balance was. So what I'm looking for here is to set the amount of money that was in each of these accounts as of the beginning of the day when my first transaction was recorded or the end of the day before. So I have no transactions recorded before 1st of January 2021 in my checking account. So I'll look at my bank statement and I'll see, okay, on the end of the day on December 31st, 2020, I had a value of $2,900 in this account. Okay, and the same thing here. I have transactions from 20th of January forward. I'm going to say, okay, well, for my savings account, I can say, okay, yeah, well, before that, what I had in the account as my starting balance was $3,000 before the 20th of January. That's how much I had in the account. Because it's a savings, I didn't really have any transactions from 1st of January to 20th of January. 3,000 was the amount I had starting the year. Okay, and then for my credit card, normally it shows a starting balance of 0, which could be correct for a credit card if I had it paid off. But in reality, I had a $500 credit. I had prepaid and had extra money sitting in the account in the amount of $500, right, as of the 14th of January 2021. The beginning of that day, if I look at my account statement, it'll show that I have $500 credit. Okay, now that I know I have looked at my institution records and found the starting balance as of the morning of this day or the night the day before, I can now say update. Now, when I click the update button, what it will do is it will enter transactions in the transaction sheet for all of these institutions. And then when it's complete, it will give me a success dialog. Now, one thing I do want to say is this process of updating the starting balances will not work if you have filters enabled on the track sheet. So you'll see here the results of success. And I do want to pause though and say, before you do this, before you click the update starting balances, really it's a good idea to go to the track sheet, and on the very top here, you'll see this thing that says clear filters. Click that button to clear any filters that you have, right, before you do this. So if you come here and it looks like you clicked the button and it didn't quite work correctly, it's not, the balances here don't match what you asked it to set. What you'll want to do is go to the track sheet, hit clear filters, come back to accounts, reset these and update it, and then it'll be correct. Okay. So that was getting your accounts registered and getting a starting balance done. Now that I've set my starting balance, I don't need to really show it anymore. That's not relevant anymore. Okay, so now that I have it, I can now look and say, okay, these ones should now match because my starting balance is correct. So now I can look at my records for, I'm going to start from the bottom up. So my credit card, my current balance of my credit card is 0, and the balance that it shows as my current balance is 0. So that means that I am good. All of my transactions are recorded. I am reconciled, right? I go up to the savings account. So I look on my transactions for the last transaction I have imported or recorded here. I look at my bank account and I see that indeed 1,700 is exactly what I have. So I am reconciled. I know my starting account balance was correct. I just entered it. I know that at the end of the year, end of December, this balance matches what my account statement is, so I'm good. And just to check, if I want to, I can always go back and say, okay, show me end of November. I can look at my bank records and say in September, end of November for savings, end of November for savings, did I have $2,400 in my account? And it'll say yes. Then I can look, okay, end of December, did I have 1,700? It'll say, it'll match. Okay. So now I go up to my checking account. And I look at my current balance and I say, well, wait a minute, the current balance is actually not correct. My checking account shows that I am off by a certain amount of money, right, compared to what I see here. So what I can do to reconcile that, I can say, okay, it's best to then start from because I know my starting balance at the beginning of January was correct. I can start going from top down month by month and reconciling all of those. Now, I'm doing it here in this demo because I had a whole year's worth of transactions without doing a reconciliation. The reality is you should be doing a reconciliation every month, and so you won't have to do this. You'll just look at the current month and reconcile it if it's required. So, but in this case, I'm off currently, and I have a year's worth of transactions that were not reconciled. So I'm going to go back to January. I'm going to say end of January. Is that the amount that is in my account? I look on my account records, and sure enough, yes, that is the amount. So, okay, January is reconciled. It is good. Then I click on February. Okay, end of February. Is this the amount that my bank statement shows in my account? And here I'm going to see, oh no, I'm actually off by $20, right? My bank records show that I have $20 less money in the account than I'm showing here, which means I have a transaction worth $20 or multiple transactions that add up to $20 that I did not get recorded. So therefore I need to fix that. So the way that we'll do that is to then go into the track sheet, and we can then reconcile within the month all the details within the track sheet. Again, the accounts sheet allows you to look at the end of every month what the balances are, and you can reconcile month by month. But if you see a discrepancy for a specific month, you need to go to the track sheet and reconcile that month in the track sheet. The first thing you need to do is to make sure that you see this balance column showing. And sometimes that balance column might not be showing. If you scroll to the right, you'll see this show balance and sources. If that is set to no, then you'll see that it's hidden. You don't see a balance column. Very important for the reconcile process that the show balance and source is set to yes. So go ahead and set that to yes if you don't have it already. And then you'll see the balances column. The second thing, the values in this balances column are only valid for a specific account. So what you have to do is you have to click on the account drop down and filter by the one account that you are reconciling at the moment. So in this case, it's checking account. Okay, so now an interesting thing that you'll see here is the subtotal column shows the final value at the end of the this is my current balance essentially, and that will match if I come over here and look at current balance 3135. So that one matches this. Okay, so what I can do now is I can say, okay, I just mentioned that this is off by a certain amount for the year, and I know that January I was okay, but February I'm not. So what I'm going to have to do now is to scroll down and look in the month of February and try to find out where my discrepancy is. The nice thing about this balance column of value is when I have it filtered by a certain account, I can look at any day. So for example, February 7th, I can look at that day, and this is the amount that should be in my account at the end of February 7th, right? And if I look at February 10th, I can say this is the amount that should be in my account at the end of February 10th. So any day of the month that you want, you can pick that date and you can look at it and it'll tell you the amount that should be in the account. And if your bank records show that is not the case, then there is something missing. Before we take the next step, I will say that to do the transaction, typically if you're missing transactions, you're going to need to add them in. When you find out where they're missing, you'll need to add them in. To do that, we use this balance button. You'll see a little button around the balance. That one button we're going to use, and this date button, you'll see there's a little button around the word date there. So if you click on the balance button, what it does is it will actually open up a separate screen on the bottom. And the purpose for this screen on the bottom is that you can be scrolling around the top and doing reconciliation, and when you find a transaction that's missing that needs to be added, you can just come right here to the bottom and add it. Once it's added, what you'll want to do is do one more step. You'll want to click, once you've added all the information for a missing transaction, simply come to the top, click once to give focus to the top screen, and then click the date button. And that will then sort, it'll pull this record you added here and pull it up to the top and put it in correct uh, uh, order by date. And so you'll see it in here and your balances will now be corrected. Okay, so that is how you use this bottom screen, and that's how you use the balance button. Now, I'll show you later as well. The balance button is a toggle. If you click the balance button, then that bottom screen goes away. If you click the balance button again, the bottom screen comes up. Okay, so now let's look at the month of February and try to resolve where this $20 was missing.
What I'm going to find is that in this example, right up on February 3rd, that I missed, I look at the February 3rd, and this value is off by about $15.50. And I realize that I missed an entry from HEB. If I look at all my entries in February 3rd and I look, there's no entry for HEB, but on my bank statement, I do see an entry for HEB. So I come down to the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and type in 3rd of February 2021. I'll go ahead and just, in this case, it's charged to HEB. It was $15.50. And of course, I'll flag checking account. And then I'll go ahead and pull that up to the top, clicking the date so that it shows up here. So now I look on the 3rd of February and everything matches. And I scroll down and check, the 10th of February, everything's matching. Go down, check the 20th of February. What I'm going to find is on the 13th of February, I'm also off. This balance here is off by $5.50 because of a marble slab entry that was missed. So I'll come in here and I'll type in, let's say 13th of February, 2021. I'll go ahead and put here marble slab, creamery. That will go, that was $5.50. And I'll go checking account here. And I will push that up to the top so we can see it. And now I see that that matches. And if I go to the end of my February, I'll see the end of February matches. And indeed, if I look at my subtotal here and my current bank account end of December, they match. So now I have reconciled my managing my money Excel accounts against this. So the other thing is, when you're done with the reconciliation, be sure to close this panel. The way you close that panel is click on the balance screen, the balance button again, and that will take the panel away. So basically this is a toggle. You click it once and it'll add one on the bottom so that you can reconcile. And it'll give you a message here saying, hey, important, please close that when you're done. And when you're done, you click there again and it'll remove it for you. And if you don't want to keep seeing these, if you're not doing reconciliation, you can always scroll to the right again and you can say show the balance and source, set that to no, and come back here, and then those will not show up. And that is the example of reconciling your accounts with Managing My Money Excel tool.